Hi, Angie here from Crafts at Home. Welcome back to this video series where I'm going to be featuring the art of quilting from Shape Artworks. Hopefully you will have completed up to issue 19 and have them stored ironed and flat ready for joining in later issues. With this issue we'll be making the diamond pinwheel block and you'll be receiving the sky blue spot, royal blue, pomegranate and white on white spot fabrics. Before you begin, iron all of your fabric so it's nice and flat. It'll make it easier to work with and improve the overall finish of your quilt. Let's start marking and cutting. So I've marked everything on the fabric that I need to with regards to the cutting templates. Now I've done the sky blue spot, I've done the white on white, but I haven't done the pomegranates because they're exactly the same, so I'm going to overlay it and then cut them together. And I've marked up my blue as well. So let's start with the sky blue spot. I'm going to go up this edge to start with, just to separate the two lots. Now if I go onto this sky blue spot, I'll trim this up. Taking off the excess fabric to start with. Again, as in all the previous issues, I do keep all of my scraps that are bigger than a certain size, really just so if I do make any mistakes I've got them spare, and they also come useful for thread catchers at the beginning and end of all my chain stitching. There's two of the squares that we need. There's the other two. Now I could bring in my long ruler. I should do for that long stretch. But I'm going to just do it quickly, make sure that it's right at the edge. And just go very, very carefully, making sure, and there we are. So just cut these off and take the corners off. If you're really careful, you can line them up so you can take all the points off in the same go. If you're not that confident, I would say do them all separately. You don't necessarily have to do them with the rotary cutter, you could just do it really carefully with scissors. So I've also got them lined up this side, I can just take off those 2 points. There we go. And just take those little bits out of the way. Right, I'm going to go and carry on cutting all these out, and I will see you back here for pinning and prepping. So as usual, I've laid out everything as the block's going to finish. Now the only thing I've done a little bit different here is because I cut my pairs together for the white on white spot and the pomegranate, I've actually kept them together so they are actually a perfect match because if any of them are off by a couple of millimetres, if I try and pair it up with a different one, it won't match. So that's why I've done it this way, and they're right side to right side, so they're already done together. If you didn't do it, then you'd place the white on white spot in these 4 gaps here, and then you just pair them up. So the first thing you'd do is your white on white spot and your pomegranate on this opposite edge, you pair up. So I've already done it here because I cut them together. So your first job is to get them matching and then pin on this long diagonal edge. Just remember, you are working with a bias edge as well, so you don't want to pull any of it out of shape. So that's one. Two. Just noticed that first one isn't lined quite right, so I'm just going to ease that out and put the pin back in. So that's my third one. And the fourth. So I'm going to take these 4 over to the sewing machine and I'll see you there in a moment. So we've got our 4 pieces here that need to be sewn. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure we've got our 6mm seam allowance. I've already got it marked here on my sewing machine. Offer it up to the foot and then start sewing on. Stop just before the first pin and take that out. Put the foot back down and then carry on. Take out the second pin, carry on to the edge. Now I'm going to pop my second piece in and do exactly the same. And then same with the third. And the same with the final piece. Once I've finished with that 4th piece, I'm going to take my stitch saver off from the back and then just feed that through for next time. the triangle off the back, and I've got all 4 there. I'm just going to snip those apart. And I'll see you over at the ironing board in a moment. So I've got these 4 triangles now with the long sides sewn, and we're going to iron them open. So we need to iron towards the white, so we have that up on top. Just set the seam and iron open. And there we are. So next you need to place them as you need to for your centre. So do that one there, that there, that there, and that one there. And you need to start pinning them together. So turn over. Now you've got a nesting seam in the corner there, so just make sure you've got that matching up nicely, and then pin together. Just be careful of any seams that you've got lying in that area that you're pinning them flat. So that one's twisted it up. So we just take out and repin. I'm just going to double check that that's lying nicely. Yeah. I'm going to do the same with this one. So again, you've got a nesting seam just there. And match the other side up. And there we are. Just going to double check that seam again, and that's spot on. So I'm just going to go and sew these 2 seams, and I'll be back in a moment. So I've gone now along both of those seams, and when I open them up you can see that the points of the triangles match really nicely together. So we need to iron open to the white. So just set your seam and then pull and iron open. And there we go. And if I turn this one around, we've got what will be the finished piece. You turn that over. Now you've got a nice nesting seam on that edge there. So you need to make sure that that is paired up and sat really nice, but because it's a thick one, I'm going to pin either side. And then match my edges up. Now, because we want our centre triangles matching perfectly, there's a way to check that you've got everything right. And if you see here, you've got a downward stitch and a diagonal stitch, and you've got exactly the same on the other side. So if they meet perfectly, if you put a pin where those two lines cross over and put it all the way through your fabric, you should find that that meets. No, it didn't, so I'm just going to double check my nesting seam, which is still right, so I might have been off at an angle. Let's try again. That's gone all the way through, and that's about 1mm off. So I'll just double check that nest again. It's still right. As long as it's right that way, then we should be on track. But when you sew through 6mm seam, you should cross where those lines cross together. So I'm just going to go away and sew this, and I'll be back in a moment. So we've gone down that final seam now, and just to double check, everything matches in the middle quite nicely. So we're going to open this one out with a difference. I'm going to do it as an open seam. So just tease the edges apart and use the toe of the iron just to open everything up. Make sure everything else is nice and flat. And there we have our centre block. So we're going to set that aside for now. And the next step is going to be 4 of the blue spot triangles and 4 of the blue smaller triangles. So you want to lay a blue triangle over your blue spot. Right side to right side as usual. Match at the bottom corner and then running up the top. You will find you have a little bit of blue sticking out the top, and then pop a couple of pins in on that top edge. You are working with a bias edge, just be careful that you don't pull anything out of shape. That's the first one. Just take your time to make sure you've got everything matching. There's 2. And there's the third one. and the fourth. So I'm going to go and sew along all these edges, and I'll be back in a moment. So now we've got all four of these sewn, we're going to iron open, and you want to iron towards the royal blue. So you want that on top, quick press, lift and iron as normal. So the next thing we do now is we bring in the other smaller royal blue triangles, and we do exactly the same but on the other side. So again, you match to the bottom and then up towards the tip. And then pop a pin in again. By doing it that way, you'll ensure that you've got a nice corner there, and you will end up with a nice line there, but because that's the outside that's going to end up pointing out to the outside edge, then that's going to be taken off with a seam allowance anyway. So we just carry on popping these on. And do the last one. And there we go. So again, I'm just going to pop and sew these four seams, and I'll be back in a moment. So now we've gone across these four seams, we're going to iron open again to the royal blue. So just quickly press and then iron open. We should have some really nice sharp rectangles. We're going to set two of these aside to start with. Quickly iron the other two. Then we're going to put them together with the points facing out and bring in our centre square again. So as you can see, we're really starting to get the finished look together. So just turn over you will have a nesting seam on each edge. So it's probably easier if you work with your triangles facing upwards. Nest your seam at the corner first and pop a pin in. And nest your seam at the other edge. And pop a pin, and then do it through the centre. There we go. So when it's turned that way, you've got the blue, light blue pointing in. So we do the same on that side. Match your nesting edge there. Nesting edge on the opposite corner. And then matching the centre. Right, so I'm going to go and sew these two seams, and I'll be back in a moment. So now I've gone down those two seams there. We need to iron open towards the light blue spot. So just set your seam and iron open. Flip around and do the same. And there we have the centre part of the block done. Now we're going to set this aside for now, and we're going to go back to our other pieces, and then we want to get our 4 sky blue spot squares, and these are going to go either side. So just turn over and line up. Make sure you've got everything nice and square, and pop a couple of pins in. You want to do this for both sides, and this will create the top and the bottom strips of the block. So that's your one section done, and you want to do the other. So that's one square done, and the final one. Again, just make sure you got everything matching really nicely. So there we go. Now I'm going to go and sew along these 4 seams, and I'll be back soon. So now I've sewn across those final 2 seams, we want to iron it towards the royal blue. So we need to turn them over. Press all the seams and then lift to iron open. I have had some issues with this fabric not wanting to lie flat. So just make sure you go over your seams nicely to make sure it's all lying properly. So that is our top section. We'll do the bottom section. And just turn over to make sure your seams are lying nicely. So now we've got to that stage, we can then bring in our middle section. So just look in there, my seams are matching up nicely. So you want to go, because you've got a nesting seam here now, match those two seams up. Are quite bulky, so you will need to take your time just to make sure that you're matching. Now, because they are bulky seams, I'm going to pin each side. And then do the same on the other side, so match them up. If you need to, just pinch and open up to double check that they're matching. And then again, I'm going to pin each side. Pop a pin through the middle. And then one either side. And we want to turn around and repeat on the other side. Make sure you've got it pointing the right way. So match your seam in. Pinch and check if you need to. And then pin. When you're pinning, just double check that you're not catching any seams and turns going the wrong way. So it's a good thing just to turn over and just double check that everything's still lying nice and flat, and then you can turn back to do more pinning. And then finally pin the two ends. And that's all done. So I'm going to go and sew these two final seams, and I'll see you back here in a moment. So now I've gone across those two seams, there's a couple of things we need to check. First of all, that those nesting seams matched up really nice, that you've got points in this corner and in that corner, and then you want to check opposite to make sure you've got exactly the same, so you've got your points in that corner, and your nesting seams are running straight. So now we want to iron this open, so just press flat to start with, and then iron open towards the top and the bottom seams. Flip it round and do the same on that side. I'm just going to turn over and make sure that all of my seams are getting that extra press to lay really flat. And there we go. That is our completed diamond pinwheel. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video and the diamond pinwheel block that we've created. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you'll be notified of our new videos. Further information about Crafts at Home, the Crafts at Home forum, the art of quilting and hat-shape artworks can be found on the social media pages which are listed in the description. Don't forget to join us next week for issue 21, where we'll be sashing the previous 9 blocks together and also joining 6 of those 19 blocks. Bye for now.